quick note before anything gets started, there is no live cam on this video, mainly because of the fact that I had a bit of an outline. There's a lot of topics that I wanted to talk about in this one, so I wanted to stay on pace as opposed to the normal ramble that I do. So no cam, don't worry, cam will be back in the future, but just not on this episode. Hey, what's up you guys? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Daily Grind, we've got a bit of a juicy topic. We're actually going to be talking about the Datamine on the new Priest frame, but not in the way that you think we are. See, as soon as this Datamine went live, you damn well know I got excited as fuck and I started digging. I actually went through line by line and made notes of things that I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Why does this reference this thing, but this next one not reference this thing? I got a little bit crazy. So, as I was going through it, I kind of started thinking, are datamines really a good thing or a bad thing? Because I know that some parts of the community find it a bit taboo, and I started asking around, and honestly, I got into some really interesting discussions with other content creators as well as some people internally. Now, my personal stance, I think datamines are fine, but you have to understand that I'm the kind of person, and I know some of you guys are going to cringe right now, but I am the kind of person that is okay with knowing a movie's plot summary before watching it. I let people spoil me on movies all the time, and even seasons all the time, because I like knowing what's up to come. And for me personally too, when I think about datamines or I think about spoilers or any of that, I really don't care about the ending necessarily. I'm more concerned about the journey that it takes me. So even though these datamines are out and we have all of these stats and whatnot and yada yada yada, I'm really interested to see how it plays in game. I'm very curious to see how the abilities synergize. I'm really curious how to see how it works with the team and kind of like their place in the grand scheme of Warframe. So even though the information is out, me personally, I'm not really too spoiled or bothered by it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really tell me where the frame is gonna sit. You know what I mean? Like, I want to get my hands on the frame and experience the frame and see all of its cool uses and all of that kind of stuff. So it doesn't really bother me at the end of the day, because all of these little, all of these little informational bits about certain abilities doing certain things, it's not the final sum of the entire Warframe. Now, while I am all well and good with datamines, I was really curious to see what the other end of the spectrum was like, because you get the feeling that when it comes to datamines, they're a little bit taboo. They're like, I don't know if you should take a look at them. And after chatting with some people, I really got to see why there is a lot of ugliness. And you know, when I say ugliness, we're gonna talk about Reddit. So as I was going through some of the Reddit comments, I found it very interesting that there were some people out there that were like, well, there's no way I'm gonna play this frame. This frame sounds stupid. I would never use this frame. And luckily, occasionally in the deep, dark depths of Reddit, there are people with common sense, and somebody busted out saying, you're not gonna play this Warframe because of a datamine? Are you stupid? And I'm like, honey babes, I got you right there. You and me together. I get you. Because to be honest with you, there's a lot of misrepresentation that happens in these datamines. A lot of people look at certain lines of code and they assume they know what they are. Now, here's where the interesting bit comes from. One of the lines that I found absolutely fucking hilarious, especially because I just watched Power Rangers the movie and I'm like, oh my god, my soul, was Tengu Turbulence Activate. I fucking cracked the hell up as soon as I thought. I was like, Tengu Turbulence Activate? What the fuck is Tengu Turbulence Activate? So now, of course, I wanted to chat internally about this and kind of see how people felt about datamines. And they're like, oh yeah, that's nowhere near as interesting as you think it is. So after chatting, basically they said that it was code names for other things in game. So it's Zephyr, and it's Turbulence, and it's Activating. So it's activating the ability. And I believe that what we had stated is that it basically comes down to an animation that they're using as a placeholder. So there's a lot of this that happens because there's another one. So that was actually in the Monk's first ability, which is called Condemn. And they internally refer to it as the Monk or the Priest. They go back and forth when looking at the coding. But yeah, the second ability, Penance, contains something called Terror. So Terror ability cast. So that could be misconstrued as that it's going to be some sort of CC or Terror-like ability for someone who doesn't really know what's actually going on with the abilities, who maybe hasn't been able to read through the million gazillion lines of code, and they're like, well, what does this mean? So there's a lot of room for interpretation, and there's a lot of room for misrepresentation. So as you can see, there are some people out there that are like either just listening to the overview of what the community has found versus in the data mines, or what the community assumes they know about the data mines, and they're like, I'm not gonna play this sucks. But on the other end of the spectrum, a lot of people will be like, ooh, this is really interesting. Are they gonna rework this aspect to work better with this? So now there's talks about reworking certain mechanics, and there's talks about not wanting to play this frame because of those mechanics. A lot of people are like in a bit of a tizzy. And I can see where that gets really frustrating, because on the opposite end of the spectrum, as the creator, you know what the final intent is, you know all of the gears and the working mechanics behind it, but you see all of these people just scrambling for scraps because they don't understand what the coding actually 100% means. Now there's going to be some people that be like, I know what it means, I'm super smart, I know everything, but I'm going to tell you right now, I dug through the same coding, I made notes of very specific things, and I was like, well, does this mean something? Does that mean something? Is this a placeholder for something else? And to be honest with you, there's a lot of room for interpretation, and to just basically assume that you know what it is extremely fucking arrogant. That's why I asked. That's why I asked internally, because I'm not that asshole that's like, I know everything. I was like, well, why don't you tell me about this? So that's the big issue with the toxic end of the spectrum. Like for me, I'm like, all good, spoil me, I don't care, no big deal whatsoever. But the fact is, the spoilers that are there are not even concrete or solidified. And it's already breeding good and bad reactions from the community, which may or may not be warranted. That's the issue. And the fact is, our community speculates so goddamn much, and we are hyper emotional. Legitimately, everybody is so emotional over everything in this goddamn game. There's so much overreaction that occurs that as a veteran player, I do a lot of eye rolling when I see it. I'm like, bitch, I done seen this kind of shit and crazier before, so maybe you should calm your ass down. And that's what I get a lot of, is like a lot of people come out in the comments and they're like, why don't you feel more why aren't you angry about this? I'm like, baby, because I've seen this. I ain't worried. It's gonna be okay. Now, the other aspect that I definitely wanted to talk about was DE kind of having to relinquish control of the reveals because of these data mines. Now, if I were DE, I would be pretty fucking upset, because you see all of these people making these speculations, not really knowing what they're talking about, and it being extremely frustrating, because I'm like, you don't get the entire picture. You're seeing literal lines of coding, and you're assuming that you know the entire picture of what this new frame is gonna be like, but I don't think that you get, you know, maybe we are working on a mechanic behind the scenes. Maybe there is a really cool passive like Nidus's passive that works with it. Maybe there's gonna be X, Y, and Z added into the game. Maybe we're gonna be tweaking and fixing certain things that will work hand in hand with the frame. But of course, because of the fact that this data mine is so small and it's referencing just this one Warframe, it might not be like going and showing the bigger picture that DE has in mind. And the thing about that I wanted to kind of put into play for you guys is, DE loves to kind of create this really cool spectacle. And it kind of creates this sense of wonderment that I absolutely love, especially when you get your hands on a new frame that does things that are very, very different. So my question for you is, would the second dream have felt as good as it did if we knew the ending would result in the operator or the focus system? Like, let me know your feels on that. If you knew that at the end there was going to be character customization and then there was going to be the focus system, sorry for all of you who haven't done it yet and are watching this video. Sorry, I spoiled it for you, but that's it. How do you feel now? If I spoiled it for you, are you angry that I spoiled it for you? And the same thing actually occurred with Octavia's Anthem. Would the last mission have been as impactful if we knew about it beforehand? If all of that was data mined and tossed out to us and saying, hey, the last mission is going to be a big gigantic Manticore. Now, for all those that I did spoil it for, how do you feel now? How do you feel now that I spoiled it for you? Let me know. Give me your honest, genuine feelings, because a part of me feels kind of like, if I was in DE's position, I'd be like, hey, y'all are fucking up, you know, this majestic, beautiful thing that I'm trying to create for you by picking apart bit by bit via my shopping list of ingredients that I had to pick up from the grocery store. But you didn't know I had a bottle of vanilla already sitting in the pantry, and you guys didn't know that I also had, you know, X, Y, and Z ingredients stocked up off to the side. You're just looking at my ingredients list, at my shopping receipts, you know? So it's kind of like one of those things. It's like we don't get the entire picture from the chef in the kitchen. We're just looking at a shopping receipt of what currently exists that we know about. So for me, it would be extremely frustrating because I'm like, I want to give you this beautiful thing, but of course I want to give it to you when I'm ready to give it to you. I don't want you to just kind of like peek in the kitchen every fucking 5 minutes to try to tell me, oh wait, no, I don't think you should be adding that much sugar. I think you should be using stevia. It's a natural sweetener. Fuck off. Stevia's nasty, by the way. I had some of it in my pantry. I tried some. It was disgusting. I hated it. So fuck off, stevia. But that's what I'm saying is like there's always everybody trying to be a cook in the kitchen when they have no business being in the kitchen. Get out the kitchen. Let them cook. Now, the last thing that I wanted to discuss, which I thought was also kind of interesting, and I don't know how you guys are gonna feel about this, it might be a little controversial, but from a content creator's perspective, how do you guys feel about content creators making Datamine videos for you? Because legitimately, at the end of the day, none of that is finalized. It's not really any real 100% real information that we know about, and like we said, there's a lot of room for misinterpretation. Now, as you guys know, my stance on it is, I like Datamines after things have gone live. When things are actually released into the server and it's a datamine of that current build. Because of things that exist, like the Dex Pixie or the Dewata. There were no ways for us to get, I don't think that there were ways for us to get stats off of it, right? I think. Oh god, now I'm eating my words. But initially, there were no stats for it that we could kind of like understand, like what was the status chance, what was the critical chance, what was the fire rate, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. So it's kind of like, for me, I liked having that after it was released, because now I know the internal workings and mechanics of it when it was released. But this stuff hasn't, like, let's face it, Octavia was just released last month, and Octavia's Quest was last month. So DE's got to work on this Warframe, they've got to work on the Warframe's animation, they've got to work on its abilities and its kit, then they've got to send it to QA for testing and balance passes and all of that kind of stuff. So a part of it is kind of like, this is still really, really raw information, and we're probably not going to be getting this Warframe for like another month and so, or maybe even another 2 months. Who knows? Who knows with DE? They like to surprise us sometimes. But you know what I'm saying? It's like this Warframe isn't going to be released tomorrow. So clearly this information is most likely not finalized, and a lot of the times DE, you know, internally has spoken to us and said, listen, we work on this till the last minute. We get some of the footage that we use in those trailers at the last minute. So, you know, not everything is consistently changing. Nothing is set in stone. So creating content based on this, at least in my opinion, is a little like just for clicks. I'm gonna say, and that's one of the reasons why it kind of drew me away. I'm like, well, this shit isn't even finalized, so what the fuck am I even talking about? Because as we saw before, we had the Tigris Prime and the Galatine Prime, which some people rushed the fuck out to make videos on that shit, and looked how dumb they looked afterwards when that shit got switched the fuck up. Because you know we gotta do balance passes, baby. They still gotta do balance passes and take all of that into account and shit. But you know, people want to go out there and get the views, and I'm like, alright. No, and if you look at it too, the second Dream script, there's a lot of S's in there, I'm sorry. Changed multiple times after its initial leak, so everybody's like, oh, Umbra's gonna be shown in this, and everybody's getting hyped up and emotional about it, like, oh yeah, it's in there, oh, they mention Umbra, yada yada yada. But it changed like 7 times after that leak to try to get a script that they really wanted. So people took this rough draft of the script, just like now they're taking the rough draft of the frame, or the rough draft of the weapon stats, and they're like, oh, this is the final thing, oh my god. And a part of me is like, is it though? And then everybody gets angry and everybody gets frustrated. But what are they getting frustrated about? Something that's not even real. At least that's how I feel about it. But yeah, so there are a lot of different changes. In fact, the fact is we're technically talking about nothing. And what's even worse is there are some people that don't even dig into the data mines themselves. They just kind of like look over Reddit and they're like, oh, well, this is what Reddit's saying. And I'm like, at least we gotta at least look at the data that's in there and figure out, you know, whether Reddit, because you know me, I never ever take anything for face value. If somebody tells me something, I gotta go playtest it and make sure that all of that stuff is cohesive. So part of me is very much like, well, I know that Reddit is saying X, Y, and Z, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if you guys are looking on Reddit and are looking at the spoilers, the last ability, they say some things on there. And I'm like, I looked through the Datamine, and while certain things are right, there are certain assumptions being made that I'm just like, where in the script is that? You know, so a lot of people are kind of putting forth their own beliefs and their own, you know, and it could be proper. It could be a proper interpretation. It could be a misinterpretation. I don't know, because it's not released. And I think that's kind of like what this video has kind of culminated into. Like, we don't know when it comes to data mines. We don't know the final outcome of it. So there's a lot of speculation to be had, but here's the thing, on the other end of the spectrum, and we're gonna go from good to bad, back to good, because this is my standpoint on it, there's a lot of discussion to be had. And that's the cool, fun part about data mines that may be good or bad. At least from a maturity standpoint. If you're mature enough not to throw a fit on Reddit and be like, I'm not gonna use this frame because I think it looks stupid from these lines of codes that probably aren't even finalized and I'm misinterpreting. But like, if you can have like a mature discussion about some of the things that are in there, then it kind of really kind of excites you and says, okay, let's talk about what this is. Let's talk about what this does. It's fun, and it brings the community together, because it's almost kind of like Dark Souls-y. You know how Dark Souls doesn't like let you into like all of the lore, so the community has to come together and try to piece it together. I think that's kind of beautiful and wonderful and really, really fun. So that's kind of like a point in like the good column as opposed to the point in the bad column. So at the end of the day, I'm still very torn. Like I said, I probably, after all of this extrapolation, I'm probably not gonna end up doing a video with all of the like little things that I found. Let's see if there's something that I can spoil. Let's give you guys a line. There is a line, by the way, in the coding. I'm gonna give you this much, so you know that I read that coding. There is a line that I'm cracking my ass up for, because it's a line that says, smaller is better. Now I'm assuming, I'm toning down my expectations, because a part of me is like, smaller is better for real, DE. You know, somebody is representing themselves in this coding, but you know what? You represent yourself. You love yourself in every way, shape, and form. Smaller is better. Okay, I get it. But that's like a line of coding that's actually in there. It's in there a couple times. I think that it might have something to do with the UI, if I'm just gonna try to rationalize it out. But smaller is better is just such a good line, and so is, Tengu Turbulence Activate. That one's just ridiculous as well. But yeah, there's a ton of things in the actual Datamine itself that are really, really interesting and really cool to talk about. But again, you have to talk about it from a standpoint where it's not finalized. It's not released. It's not even, at least in my brain, not even close to a scheduled release. So it's just talk for talk, really. So I want to know what your feelings as my community are about data mines. Do you like them? Do you not want them? Do you not want things to be spoiled for you? Or do you not mind if things are spoiled for you? In turn, how do you feel about the community reactions to data mines? Do you think that people need to calm the fuck down? Because I think they do sometimes. But you know, you speak for yourself. Don't let me speak for you. I don't know why I'm pointing at the camera, because legitimately, I'm not recording my face cam for this one. But yeah, so let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. Share your feelings. Don't do me a huge favor. Like I said, I don't think that I'm gonna end up covering the data mine itself. So don't start sharing the data mines in the comments below. If you want to do that, there's other videos that I'm sure you could do that in. You know, hint, nudge, nudge. But what I'm saying is, you know, don't spoil it for other people in the comments below, just in case some people do want to, you know, want a fresh, clean palette, as opposed to having their expectations either heightened or de-heightened. Lowered is probably the correct word. But aside from that, as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll talk to you guys again next time. Bye-bye. That was weird, because I was like waving, and I'm like, and I did the body movements and everything, and I'm like, wait, there is no bye-bye. This is just strange. Just strange.